Welcome to another episode of EO Cincinnati Unplugged, where entrepreneurs share their real stories of their greatest wins and their worst losses and lay it all on the line. Today, we have Sarah Crawford joining us today. Sarah, tell me a little bit about your business name, and what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you, Margee. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm the founder of the Anchor Wellness Center, which is an integrated health and wellness collaborative. We support small business owners on the operations, administration, and strategic side with the intention of trying to create a all-in-one stop for consumers to be able to access more efficient health and wellness care. And inside of that center, I own Wave Physical Therapy and Pilates, which is an integrated physical therapy practice where we focus on root cause-based care with specializations in manual therapy. And I started these businesses in 2019. So it's been a little bit that I've been around.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So we can get right to it, and I can ask some of these questions about your greatest setbacks and your greatest wins. But I'd also love for you to tell us a little bit about the Accelerator program, because you're the EO Cincinnati board chair for the Accelerator program. So what is the EO Cincinnati Accelerator program?
Sure. So the Accelerator is meant to support business owners who are trying to grow their businesses towards $1 million in top line revenue. We do that. We help them by 5-day-long workshops per year that are targeted towards people, cash, execution, strategy, and revenue, as well as peer-to-peer accountability groups that are facilitated by a coach, and other supplemental learning opportunities, as well as just connection to a peer network of people with similar values and missions in business.
And I know personally you've done a wonderful job spending a lot of time on this program and making it really a great value for everyone who participates in it. Tell me, do you have any stories of good personal wins, something that felt just like you felt really good about, that's what the Accelerator is all about? Do you have any good stories?
Yeah, I mean, I can say one of our Accelerator members who joined in 2025 just recently shared that she had the worst year of her business in 2024, which is one of the reasons she chose to join the Accelerator. And 2026 is looking to already be almost double what she had previously done. And so, I think that in and of itself is an example. One of the values of EO is think big, be bold. And I think both EO and the Accelerator are really powerful in that way. And just when you surround yourself with other people who are thinking big, it drives you to want to do the same. My own company, I 4X'd in the first 18 months of joining EO. And so I think there's a lot of stories like that.
Fantastic. I love it. Love it. Love it. So getting right to the setbacks, you have a significant setback that you experienced in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I would say for me, one of the biggest was, hiring a family member or a family member, a near family member. And that went sour really quickly. And it was probably the first, maybe only time where I really questioned if I could do this. I remember it took me to my knees, and I remember thinking, if this person can do this to me, who wouldn't, And so I would say what came out of that was just more boundaries around who I would work with, but B, that I probably was a catalyst to starting a personal journey that I've been on myself for the last few years of trying to figure out, why am I accepting of certain types of behaviors around me and not of others, and what I was doing to partake in those types of relationships.
Wow. So that was really my next question too. What immediate impact did it have on you? Did it challenge or change how you approached business and your leadership styles?
Yeah, I mean, I think up until that point, I don't know if I even thought about leadership. I don't think I had ever contemplated what leadership is or what it should be or what I wanted it to be. It was just at that point, I think I was so mechanical in how I was running my business. It was not necessarily intentless because I knew who I was trying to help on the consumer side, but I don't think I was as intentional about the people within my organization and the health and the culture that needed to be had in order to really grow it.
Excellent. Excellent. So then what strategies and resources did you leverage to fix this problem? How did you fix this problem?
I think for me, I really just dove into personal development. I dove into understanding more about myself so that I could get better at understanding others. I think I poured more into Enneagram and to learn as a tool to understand others' motivations a little faster. And I think what we did was, one of the side effects of that is we created a process for hiring that really doesn't involve me as much as it did prior to that point.
So from this experience or other experiences, what would be a lesson you learned that you would want to share with other entrepreneurs to help them prepare for, negative potential setbacks?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like anything, the more experience and practice you have with something, the easier it is to deal with. And so that was a big one in terms of personnel and management. And I think when other things that might look like setbacks have happened since, I don't take them as personally, or they don't hit as deep. And I think part of that is just building a shield to a certain extent as the owner, of recognizing that and really embodying the fact that this is my business, this is my baby, and not everyone else feels that same way about it. And so, when people say don't take it personal, it's hard to not take it personal, but also the realization that it isn't personal. It's not a two-way street. So I think to a certain extent, I would just encourage, greater confidence in what you're doing and in your vision and mission, and just staying really focused on that, and recognizing that when people leave, or when things maybe go sour that weren't really expected or anticipated, that it's always a learning opportunity. And it's honestly, I think for me, in my experience, when things haven't worked out, something has always come out more beautiful on the other side. And so I've really started looking at those kind of setbacks more as opportunities than as negatives, even though they don't necessarily feel like it in the moment.
What books or resources do you recommend for entrepreneurs that would help them along their journey as well, or something you really took to heart from the Accelerator experience, or something that you found has been a great resource?
I would say there are two that come to mind for me. One was James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. That book for me, and it's not that there was like I found it profound, not necessarily in the way that maybe my mind often finds things profound, because my background's in science. So, I'm used to reading like new science, but just the way that he organized the power of habits and the reduction in energy that it requires when you just build a habit. And so that book has when other tasks that I'm responsible for used to feel like a lot of work, now they don't, because I've just built in ways to make them feel so normal and regular, as though I'm brushing my teeth. And so for somebody who has a lot of things on my to-do list all the time, that book has brought me a lot of peace in that I don't get nearly as overwhelmed, because I have some tools and strategies, and maybe even just mindset solutions that came out of that. And then I would say the other one is Crucial Conversations, who the author of that book is escaping me. It's a bunch of them. It's up on my shelf. That's what I was looking up. But that book has been, I think, helpful for some of these challenging conversations when I am, realizing what my own, where I personally go in a state of stress, and recognizing that others have their places that they go into a state of stress. And so trying to create psychological safety, when we have challenging conversations or scenarios. I think that book has been really helpful to me. And I won't say I'm an expert at it, but it's at least given me more guidance on like the coaching philosophy, as opposed to like the manager's philosophy.
Very, very cool. And that one came up recently. I was doing some research, and that title came up for me recently. So what was a pivotal moment or a turning point when you realized that you were on the path to success, just in your company as a whole?
I'm still looking for that moment. No, I mean, there's little blips all the time. I find, almost every time that I recruit a new physical therapist to my practice, I primarily only recruit senior physical therapists. So they're people who are really well established in the places where they're working. And anytime somebody says yes to me, I think, gosh, I must have something. We just signed a lease to expand our current space to double our footprint. And I think, okay, we must be doing something right if we need more space. So I think for me, it's mostly been a lot of just like little things, even just getting feedback at the end of last year from my team saying, hey, we can see the work you've done, and, we're really proud to work here. So, I can't say it was like hitting a big sure, hitting the $1 million mark felt really good, but we all know that hitting $1 million in top line doesn't necessarily mean anything about bottom line. But I think a lot of it for me has been the people who are willing to trust us with their care and the employees who are willing to work here.
What is the most unconventional piece of advice you received in general, and share that interesting advice?
Yeah, that's a good one. Unconventional piece of advice. I recently in my leadership journey, I'm on this board that you're on, and I think it's a really, the reason I said yes to this board was to practice learning how to lead. It's easier potentially to lead people who maybe work for you and you're signing their paycheck, a little less easy to work along a bunch of volunteers. And the piece of advice that was given to me was to treat the board as though I was the parent and the rest of the board are children. And the advice was, you might see your child about to jump off a wall that they shouldn't jump off, but they're not really going to hurt themselves, right? Like it's like maybe it's a little bit scary, but you mostly just don't want them to do it. Or maybe they're playing with crayons and you have a dinner party and you want them to clean up. But at the end of the day, you're still nobody's going to be surprised when they walk into your dinner party and see your children playing with crayons. And so the philosophy of just that whole, how you teach a child of you wouldn't just tell them no, you want to help them find the answer. When somebody shared that piece of advice to me, I was offended by it. I'm like, wait, is that what other people are doing to me? But it has helped me learn more about how to communicate with others to try and, get what I want, I guess, for lack of a better word, or to get to the place where we all agree that we need to go. As opposed to, I think, what has historically, as I'm sure you're aware, been my methodology is just to beat something to the ground until it happens. So I think, this idea of kind of taking the parenting relationship to to business relationships, it has been helpful for me. But at first it really struck me as but why am I parenting adults? But it's in the mindset of how you would talk to a kid about, you wouldn't tell a kid they just did a bad job if they had a bad game.
Yeah.
Right. You try and find the positives and then help them see how they could have done better next time. So I'm definitely obviously still working on that one.
How has your definition of success evolved through your journey here as a business owner?
I think primarily I would have told you at the beginning that all I wanted to do was make money. And I think today what I want to do is have an impact. And, I don't know if that's my business journey or just aging or watching the world around me. But, if I can help a person find meaning that they didn't maybe know that they had, I think to me, that's my definition of success today.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Gosh, thank you so much, Sarah. Is there anything else you want to add that I didn't ask you, or anything else about your business coming up that's exciting?
No, I think we hit the nail on the head. We always have stuff going on here. We just had a balance workshop this past week, helping people keep their balance and prevent falls. And no, beyond that, I think we've got monthly workshops all the time, but no, they can go to our website and learn more, makeawavecincy.com and anchorcincy.com. But no, Margee, I appreciate you having me. Thanks for chatting.
Great. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being on the show.